journey down the rabbit hole of rock and roll's past, present, and future. It's Barstool Rockers with your hosts, Jim Finn and Dan Michaels.
A good day to y'all and a happy April 1st, 2019, just after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony over the weekend. And it's a special edition of the Barstool Rockers podcast today. We have an opportunity to talk to a friend of ours, a gentleman we work with in the mothership, Sal Cirrincione.
You did it right.
Hey, thank you very much. And we'll talk to that's a good Italian. That's Chef Boyardee. There you go. And we had a chance to talk to him, and he was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We thought you might like to hear that. But before we get there, we got a lot of different highlights from the night. Yeah. And man, it was a diverse night. Yeah. And Stevie Nicks got things going. And, there was some speculation that Lindsay might appear. And I thought, wow, that would have been really, really cool. But as you'll find out in the conversation, he didn't show up. But Don Henley appeared, so that was really cool. And she really seemed to be appreciative when it came time for her speech.
It's not hard for me to go and play for you, but it's very hard for me to try to tell you how I thank you for this being the first girl in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. Sometimes I just can tell great stories, but for me to tell you a story from my heart about what this means to me is very hard, because this has never happened to me before. And I'm hoping that since it's never happened to me, and now only once, 22 men in for 0 women, and now 1 woman, that what I am doing is opening up the door for other women to go like, hey, man, I can do it.
So yeah, Stevie commenting, being the first woman to get inducted twice, a big thing to her and to a lot of women in rock and roll. So that's really cool.
And of course, a big night for Def Leppard, too, being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, the Leppard boys are all fans of a lot of that glam rock from the 70s. Mott the Hoople, more on that later.
Bowie.
And of course, Bowie and Queen. And Brian May was on hand inducting Def Leppard into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
They recorded 11 incredible albums, and they played their asses off around the world many, many times. They did it the old-fashioned way. They played and played and played, and they made great music in the studio. They sold eventually more than 100 million albums. They wrote real songs that people can sing and carry in their heads, is the reason that Def Leppard will be remembered in hearts and minds long after all of us have left the building.
So yeah, Brian May, the guys are a fan of his, and they're all friends. And eventually through the night, they'd be up on stage jamming together. And Joe Elliott really got a little heartfelt and a little emotional at one point.
It was 1983 that saw us move into a whole new orbit with the phenomenal success of the album Pyromania, where we were properly introduced to our new boss for the first time, our wonderfully loyal fan base, without whom we would not be up here tonight. For that, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You have stayed on board with us for the best part of the following 36 years and supported us through some tough times along the way. But those tough times have helped us make this band what it is today. It's solid, we're appreciative of who we are and what we stand for. And although it did seem that every time that we made some musical headway, life would just knock us back down somewhat. Pyromania is a raging success. And then Rick has a life-changing accident and came out the other side stronger. Hysteria gave us the global success that we'd always craved. But then we lost Steve. But we survived, and we came out the other side stronger people. And that's the way that it's always played out throughout our career. So let's face facts, people here. If alcoholism, car crashes, and cancer couldn't kill us, the 90s had no chance. We're not blood, but we're the closest thing to brothers that this only child has ever known. I couldn't, and I wouldn't want to do it without these guys. Thank you.
And one of the topics we have talked about on this podcast many times is bands that haven't been inducted as of yet. And some wrongs were righted with a band, Roxy Music, finally being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. John Taylor of Duran Duran inducted Roxy Music into the Hall of Fame.
There was funk, country and western, rock and roll, German experimental music, doo-wop, all hybridized into something entirely new. But this was more than just music. This was all-encompassing, pioneer, lifestyle branding. This was an entire genre unto itself. This was Roxy Music.
And then Phil Manzaro reflected on why it was such a special night.
What I've realized is this is a wonderful valedictory night because we won't be playing again. We played the songs well, I think, tonight, so this is a great moment for us to say, well, this is what it was, and these are the 8 albums that we did. Great. It's a nice way to go because it sort of bookends the 47 years and to end on a big splash. I mean, I didn't realize how big the hoopla was and everything. You get out there on the floor and the tables and then all the audience there. And think, wow, this is like a proper gig.
We're talking with Sal Cirrincione. He is with Premier Radio Networks. He is very familiar with the world of rock and roll. He has the position of Senior Director of Rock Programming and Specials in addition to writing the Classic Daily. He's also responsible for artist interviews, including interviews with members of the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin, The Who, and hundreds of others. And Sal is here this morning. He's going to give us a recap on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Good morning, Sal.
Well, good morning. That was a nice introduction. Yeah, I guess I've spoken to a few people, but at the end of the day, like I tell everybody else, we all put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time.
It's just summer denim and summer leather.
Yeah, this was the 24th Rock Hall ceremony that I've had to cover. I don't say had like they made me do it, but this is what I do. And this was a good one. This year we saw Def Leppard, Stevie Nicks, The Cure, Roxy Music, Janet Jackson, The Zombies, and Radiohead all get inducted. And I know somebody out there right now in Wisconsin is making fun of the fact that I said we saw. So I'm from Brooklyn, and this is where the ceremony was held in Brooklyn, New York, at the Barclays Center.
Exactly.
This is a good group of people, though.
Now, the evening started differently than it has in the past, correct?
Well, years ago, the Jan Wenner, the chairman of the hall, always used to get up and make a speech, so that's been eliminated. But there's no host. There's never been a host for this event. It's always, just a voiceover announcer somewhere in the back bowels of the arena or venue where it's held. And Stevie Nicks came out, and she started it off. Harry Styles from One Direction inducted her. They are friends. Having sang together a couple of years ago, and he's always been made no bones about the fact that he's been a fan of hers for years and years.
She's so wise and serene. She sees all the romance and drama in the world and she celebrates it. She will stand on stage introducing her songs, telling you how she wrote them honestly, like you're the only other person in the world. You're more than a fan, you are her friend. And her words say in so many ways, I understand you, and you are not alone. And that is true Stevie.
She came out. She should have probably stuck to the speech that was in her hand, but she decided not to, and as a result, she just rambled on.
She's been known to do that from time to time.
Stevie never. Did people know that Don Henley was going to be coming out and joining her?
No, I didn't know it. I mean, that doesn't mean anything because I didn't know it. But no, she said, I'm going to bring out a special guest for this song, and she did introduce it as Leather and Lace, so you figured it might be him. But then I was thinking, I said, oh man, I think they're still on tour in Australia, meaning the Eagles. But nope, he then walked out on stage, sang it with her, and I'm sure he was probably back on the plane heading back to Dallas or Los Angeles before the night was even out.
Yeah.
He was gone before the jam started.
Yeah, well, Fleetwood Mac, they left after she was inducted. They came back, took a couple of photos with her in the press room. She did her thing on stage, and they were gone because they were going up to Boston on Saturday because they're still on tour. So, they weren't making it a late night either, and I don't think any of them drink anymore. So, I'm not to say that that's the only way to have fun, but it's a 4 or 5 hour affair. You're sitting at your table, everybody else around you pretty much is drinking and enjoying themselves, and at some point there's the temptation to want to join in. So they probably figured, let's just get out of Dodge and do what we got to do.
Yeah, well, but Stevie had to be kind of riding on a natural high anyway, because she's the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, right?
That is correct. Now, 22 men have gone in more than once, Eric Clapton being the most with 3, Solo, Yardbirds, and Cream. But, she's the first woman. And really, unless they induct Diana Ross, I can't think of too many other women who have had success both with a group and on their own. There probably are plenty more, but those are the 2 ones that come to mind on that scale of a level of success anyway. So, this is a big to-do for her.
Were there any Lindsay sightings?
No. Wouldn't it have been great if he would have inducted her?
That would have been, or to see him come walking out to do a duet. That would have been great too.
Exactly. So. Look, at the end of the day, those 2 still love each other. There's no question in my mind, but, it's like me and my first girlfriend, we're still in touch to this day, but we still argue like we did when we were 16 and 19. Just some things are just not going to get past. But look, she mentioned Lindsay in her speech. She mentioned Lindsay backstage. Funny, nobody in the press room asked her about Lindsay and, her saying it's either him or me for Fleetwood Mac. So that never was answered. But no, she did mention him. She didn't thank him, but she did mention him.
Well, talking about the speeches themselves, there were some pretty emotional moments throughout the course of the evening. Joe Elliott from Def Leppard talking about his mom and the accident that Rick Allen had.
Yeah.
And I've been watching a few of the highlights this morning, and the one that really got to me was Ed O'Brien from Radiohead talking about his bandmates. Very emotional.
This is such a beautifully surreal evening for us, and it's a very far cry from where we come from, but thank you for inviting us, for inducting us into this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It is a big deal, and it feels like it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway from that is, here's Radiohead. First of all, Phil Selway, the drummer, he spoke before Ed, and, Phil said, look, we've not been the most media-friendly band.
We may not be the greatest musicians around, and we're certainly not the most media-friendly of bands, but we have become very adept at being Radiohead. And when that connects with people, it feels amazing.
And they made no bones about the fact that or at least Tom York did, that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they don't understand it. It doesn't really mean anything to them. But I think the takeaway from there was what Ed O'Brien said, was that this is a big deal. And I think my bandmates would have been moved by this. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, awards, they come and go, and a lot of them are made up and stuff. But this one now, it's interesting because this really has the support of the fans. And even though this fan vote only counts as one vote, you really have to look at the numbers of the people who are registering votes. And, yes, you can vote more than once. But, the fans, as Gene Simmons of KISS always says, are our bosses. And he's right. I mean, we, meaning me here, the 2 of you there, we're the ones, we buy the records, the CDs, the tapes, the concert tickets, the T-shirts. I mean, we're the guys that enable them to do what they do. That doesn't mean that we should get gold medals or anything, but, if you can then give back to us by showing up at this little award ceremony, it means a lot to us, I think us in this industry, we get a little bit jaded from time to time, especially me here in New York. Everybody and their mother plays here. And I do these music cruises. I go on and I MC these Q&A sessions. And I remember being on this ship a couple of years ago. Randy Bachman happened to be playing. And there was a woman sitting next to me, and she had a pillar in her way. And I said, ma'am, please switch seats with me. She goes, no, she goes, you won't be able to see. I go, it's okay. I've seen Randy a million times. No big deal. He always plays in New York, blah, blah, blah. And it was at that moment that this woman, she was so appreciative, and she goes, oh, I'm from this small town in Canada, and I never get to see him. And the funny part is that Randy, who's Canadian, always tours Canada. But at that moment, I'm like, you know what? This stuff really does mean so much to the fans. And, I happen to have a job in this industry, and perhaps I've gotten a little too close to it and really have lost focus of what it's all about. So, you know what? Put aside your differences, show up, accept your award, bow to the fans. And I think that's what Ed was trying to say with Radiohead, his bandmates not being there.
We had Randy on a couple months ago. He was playing a show in the area, and he's not a huge fan of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's for sure. He doesn't understand it as most people don't. So
no, yeah. I mean, look, is it a lot of political BS? Absolutely. Should so and so be in and should so and so not be in? Probably. Who knows? It makes for good, street corner arguments and stuff. At the end of the day, it's like the Grammy. It's all jockeying for stuff. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that when you get nominated for a Grammy Award, then the artist goes on the hunt and actually, jockeys like a politician does for support to get the votes to get, the album of the year and stuff like that. It's all a bunch of BS, but the fans, they buy into it. So,
and it's music. We're not going to agree on everything anyway.
Exactly right.
And I think Trent Reznor was pretty graceful, actually, while he was inducting The Cure when he made his comments about, I don't know if graceful is the word I want to use or not, but he seemed pretty sincere when he was talking about how he has been critical of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And he was humbled.
I should make a full disclosure at this point. I think it's only right for me to admit that in the past I've been, let's say, ambivalent about the existence of certain award ceremonies. And I've perhaps been in the habit of questioning their motivation with a certain degree of cynicism. In fact, I remember distinctly saying to myself, amongst other things, how can I even take this award ceremony seriously if they'll open their doors to X, Y, and Z, but they won't even acknowledge The Cure? And then, not so long ago, I got a phone call I wasn't expecting, and well, here we are. Let's just say I've never been as happy to eat my words as I was on that day.
Well, maybe someday I'll get a call from Dave Marsh, and he and I'll have a nice little singing of Kumbaya together. So, Nikki Sixx taking advantage of their popularity right now with the movie and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, saying they're banished from the hall. Is there any insight on that you have?
No, I don't have any insight, but I could understand why he'd say that, because if it is indeed the people that have been nominating a lot of these artists, you can bet your last buck that none of them are Motley Crue fans. Is that starting to change? Yeah, they're starting to get younger people on the nominating committee, people with a broader scope of music, and if they're worthy of it, they may get some consideration down the road. I mean, look, we can make there's arguments for who should be, like I said, in and should not be in. Now, here's some obvious omissions, my opinion. Doobie Brothers, Foreigner, Pat Benatar, Jethro Tull, perhaps even Bad Company. I think some of those, are certainly worthy of discussion, but they can only induct X amount. So,
Sal, sometime when you have time, we should get you on an episode and discuss our ideal Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's wings involved.
Yeah. We have separate wings. Well, and for God's sakes, the Zombies finally making it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Can you tell us, how much of a time crunch are you on? Do you got to go?
No, I've got 6 minutes, if that's good for you.
Okay, yeah. What were your impressions, the musical highlights for you, or just in general, the highlights of the evening for you?
I thought Roxy Music was tremendous. I thought they did a great set. And after the fact, I spoke to their guitarist, Phil Manzanera, and he said, that's probably it. He goes, I think that's the perfect way to bring the curtain down on a 47-year career. We haven't played together in 8 years, and I think that what you saw tonight is the last time that Roxy Music plays together. I thought that The Cure did a good performance. I thought the Zombies were okay, although I thought Colin wasn't singing at his best. He's been better than that, but Def Leppard, Stevie Nicks, they're always going to do what they do, although I thought the tempos for both of them were down a notch. Wasn't as fast as I thought it would be in a live setting, but overall everybody was solid. And of course I thought everybody Def Leppard staying on stage at the end of the night and then bringing out Brian May on guitar and Ian Hunter to join them in for All the Young Dudes, which was, of course, Mott the Hoople song that Ian sang. And Joe Elliott is a huge Mott the Hoople fan, and I thought that was a great way to close out the show, and they actually did a very good performance of it.
Talking about Def Leppard, there was quite a bit of talk for a while that Pete Willis would appear on stage with them. Any news why he didn't?
No, they mentioned that. Joe did. He matter of fact, he talked about meeting Pete and how it was a chance meeting. I think he said something to the effect that, he was coming home from school and instead of going down Main Street, he started to go down Spring Street or whatever the case may be, ran into Pete, who he kind of knew from the neighborhood. Pete asked him to join the band, and the rest is history, but he said Pete had other commitments and couldn't make it. So, he's now in commercial real estate, I understand, and no longer in the music industry, but certainly a big part of those early Def Leppard albums. Unfortunately, they fired him due to his drinking a bit too much, as it were.
They like to imbibe, but he liked to embalm.
Yeah, I guess that's it. So, yeah. But no, too bad. It would have been nice for them to reunite with him for a night.
Sal Cirrincione, he's with Premier Radio Network, and he also produces a lot of, award-winning specials, including iHeartRadio's Icon series, and has been the MC on 4 of the Moody Blues cruises and its spinoff. How does that work out? Is that
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I do that, and I do the it was the Moody Blues cruise, then it became the On the Blue cruise.
Yeah.
And then I do the Rock Legends cruise. And so this is I actually take vacation to do that, but it's fun. I'm brought on board to moderate question and answer sessions with the artists. And so we sit either in a theater or on the pool deck, and passengers gather around and watch what it is that I do. But it's not what I do. Nobody cares what I do. I'm just there to sort of moderate and just facilitate, if you will, and get these guys to give some good answers and tell good stories. And so it's a lot of fun. It's interesting, some of the stuff that these guys are wanting to share with people and the stories that they tell. It's fascinating stuff. Go on YouTube. There's a great video. There's 2 of them. One is with Randy Bachman and Peter Frampton. Do Rock Legends Cruise, Randy Bachman, Peter Frampton, it'll come up. But the other one that's truly funny was when I paired Paul Rogers up with Alice Cooper. And Alice Cooper took over, as well he should.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about me, and the stories are just tremendous. You will definitely laugh, especially about the snake on stage urinating. That was priceless.
We got to hear that one. Sal, we appreciate you taking some time out today to talk to us about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, anytime you want to have the discussion about the Wings, and if we do it over Wings, that'd even be nice, you know.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
There we go.
We'll meet in Chicago.
Sounds good. I've never been to Wisconsin. I want to come to Wisconsin.
Get on a plane. Come on in.
You may see me soon enough. Actually, this summer I'm thinking of doing my baseball road trip, and if I do, I'll try to swing by.
We will meet you in Milwaukee.
All right.
Thanks, Sal.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Our good buddy Sal on the podcast today, giving us a recap on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Boy, another interview there that we could have spent a long time chatting with him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And if he comes to town, we're definitely going to go down and see some baseball with him and maybe chat up about the wings of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And who knows, maybe he'll even be able to shed some light on Dave Marsh for me. And maybe someday I'll get that call from Dave and we'll have that kumbaya moment like Trent Reznor
That
had.
I want to be there for. I want to be there for that. And Dan, I knew that there was no way we were going to get through this episode without mention of the wonderful Dave Marsh.
There you go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It is the Barstool Rockers podcast. You can get us at barstoolrockers.com. You can get us on Spotify. We're there. We are on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review there on that one. We are on the iHeartRadio app, and the mothership always loves it when you listen on the iHeartRadio app. Listen there, subscribe, do all those nice things. Thanks to Stasia for our music today, and as always, thank you all for listening.
A wonderful coincidence to all of us standing here in Brooklyn, the site of our very first concert in America when we did the Murray the K Show, Christmas Day 1964. but it's actually 50 years ago to this very day, the 29th of March, 1969, that Time of the Season reached the #1 position in America.